in their lifestyles, given their lifestyle, their savings, all given their needs, what could happen to them? The more you share with them the stories, bring in people, real people. I think that's a great idea. Someone that talked about, bring in a real person with the experience of what happened to them, and maybe it could have been turned out to be a good story after all, or not. And what someone had before and what they have now. There's lots of other stories there too. But education, storytelling, I think is a wonderful way of building relationships, and the retention part of in clients comes from that relationship, right? Comes from that relationship. So planners' ability to educate is two things: your good knowledge and effective delivery. There are many professors who know a lot, really smart people, can't teach for nuts. Who can't teach for nuts because they don't know how to sort of effectively open up sort of the receivers in the students who are really thirsty for this stuff. You guys are thirsty for this stuff. I see the stuff, the passion going in, and I know this is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and suddenly it's coming up in the forefront. The mechanical stuff of putting stuff in a black box like modern portfolio theory and coming up with optimal allocation charts. That's the easy side. This side of trust and hand-holding is the difficult side, and it comes through education. An absolute key on a national scale. It's think about the analogy I've used before about medicine, like 12 to 15 years, and doctors having to be ethical and so on. So, what if there was a do-it-yourself kit for your appendicitis and you had a pain and you self-diagnosed? Are you willing to do that? Nationally, the only things we know about our health is that good diet. What's good diet? What's good exercise do for your health? What's good diet do for your health? To deal with stress. General education. What's the general education on the financial side amongst all people? Do they know what is a reasonable expectation of returns under different conditions? Do they know how important saving is for their future? That's like diet and exercise kind of stuff for finance, right? Save early, save often. That's a good mantra of sorts, right? Like vote early, vote often, like, Chicago Mayor, what's the guy's name? But it's sort of like that. So your ability to educate, I've put up the EBRI stats, Employee Benefits Research Institute. Go in there and look at what they have, the reports they have, how screwed up people are with their retirement plans. It's scary, absolutely scary. The average boomer is going to retire every year, about 1 million or 2 million are retiring. Average boomer is going to retire with about $150,000 to $200,000 in their 401k plans, and they will take it in a lump sum, and most likely they'll spend $20,000 of that buying a Cadillac or something, because that's what they've always dreamed of. And they're spending $60,000, $50,000, $60,000 in their current lifestyle. And it's scary. And that's like ignorance, right? So as financial advisors, you can see when you go to a doctor's office, right, they spend a lot of time explaining the diagnosis to you, and the treatments to you and stuff as best in lay people's term that they can help you understand, right? Every time you go to a doctor will take the time to talk with you, right? If you take your kids, I know I've taken my kid, and the doctor will take a lot of time because it's, they cannot talk technical with us. We don't understand Roman, Latin technical terms. But they will talk to us about ordinary stuff and what we can understand and say, all right, this is your disease, your illness. These are the treatments. These are the possibilities. These are the byproducts, the results. And this is what I'm suggesting doing, right? So you are in a similar position. And that's how you got to think about diagnosing. These are the problems you have. Hey, you don't need whole life. You need term life. Why do you need whole life? Most people need term life, right? So why do you want whole life? Take that money and invest it properly. So why is it term life? Why is it whole life? That's a simple question. Where do you defer? Where do you use whole life? Where you defer income from taxes? So in a whole life thing, in any deferred product, you will not put low income product like capital gains. you put stocks in a 401k plan. If you can put it outside, you put it outside. Say if it's a low dividend or zero dividend stock, it's a growth stock. What's the use of putting it in a 401k plan? There's no deferral of tax. That's all capital gains taxes and ordinarily deferred. You don't need to hold it in a 401k plan. So why do people do that? Why do people put an IRA in a 401k plan? A deferred tax and a deferred tax. You're talking about fiduciary issues. These are, how do common people know of all this stuff? How will they ever learn that these are things that shouldn't happen to them? Just think about stuff that you guys know and what people don't know. How do you effectively tell them, look, I'll take care of you? I will. I'll take care of you the best of my ability. And that's also part of the education. Your client goes to sleep in the sound knowledge that they won't get hurt by you. What have you done? That's a good doctor, is it not? So that's education. So I'm going to stop here and turn to you for comments.
Yeah, I find that it takes a lot of time to educate clients, and it's easy. We all like to say that we want to spend as much time as possible educating clients, but where I get frustrated is that I feel like it takes up all of their mental capacity just to understand what I'm trying to explain to them, and then by the end of it, it's become more difficult for them to make a decision, or they get paralysis by analysis. And so what I have trouble with sometimes is finding the right balance between those two, the proper education, or sufficient education, and then when to transition into, helping them actually make the decision versus just sit there and be stumped.
Yeah, that's very good. And I'll my immediate spontaneous thought, I go back again to the doctor. Let's say you have a difficult disease, and it's difficult for them to explain what's happening inside you because we don't know what's inside us. How do we effectively tell them to calm them down and sort of give comfort that they're going to help them, you're going to help them overcome their problem? It is difficult. You're willing to help them, but it may be useful to take the time. And as you yourself pointed out, it takes time to educate clients, but it takes time to build relationships as well, does it not? So it's you need a lot of patience, understanding about exactly what you said, that these people are at their end. They don't want to hear about any of this stuff. They want to feel comfortable that they're in good hands. And how do you tell them the right things to placate them, to make them feel at ease? Just like a good doctor does, even with difficult diseases. What else can you do, right? Sometimes. And you're in the very same position, very, very same position. David?
Yeah, I think the clients, they expect us to be educated. They come to us because they believe we're educated, especially high net worth clients or sophisticated clients. But the key that I found is the relationships. And the relationships sometimes take years and a lot of time, and you have to give continual good advice. And so it takes time. And then the best clients and the best way to get clients, I found, is through referrals. If you do good work with your current client base, and they trust you, you get referrals, and that's the best way to get clients. But education, the way I've noticed is, I've got all the initials and experience, and they don't come in and ask me, are you a Series 7 or RIA or CFP? They want to know that I've been doing it for many years, and that's what's important to them. And it takes years to build that trust and that relationship, and that's the key. You got to do it consistently.
Yeah, absolutely right. Wonderful. And you can see this. I mean, this stuff is like, This is the hard part of financial advising. The easier parts are like more clear theory and efficient markets and all that, which you can just put into black boxes. Much easier. All right, here's the next one. And you can see on the effect on these things have mental problems. Look at this issue. The effect of ignorance. If you keep making poor decisions and spending your family's money, how much does it hurt you personally? Because you were ignorant and you thought you weren't. You see that a lot. You see doctors who think they're really smart. And doctors have all sorts of problems with their finances. And doctors make great clients. People know they have money. And they are very smart people. But it's just like us doing our own medicine. Saving versus spending. All right. I put some links on my FPA blog for you guys. You can go and look at it. The last one was on this marketing gurus. And here my point is, there's two things, and we are coming back to Greg's question about personal utility. And so let me go with that. Maximizing of current personal utility, my own present value, my family. Even before my family, it's me, right? It's me first. What happens to my kids comes second, and that's the boomer generation. So even higher than my family is myself. If it came between yourself and your kids, which one would you choose? Right? And I've asked this in class with my students, most of them. If I had to say, right, you have to make a choice now because you boomers, we have spent so much. You're going to take the bus from now on to work so that your kids can go in cars. Otherwise, you go in cars and it's at the expense of your kids. Your kids will go to work in buses and work in lousy conditions. Which one will you choose? And my students have always pretty much said, we'll choose our own personal well-being over our kids. So it's not just, it's just not my family. What about within my family? What about me versus my family? Right? Who do I take care of first? What if it's a choice? Maximizing of current personal utility, that's the theory of utility maximization. And Greg, you're coming up with that. You have to think when you say about your family, who's your family? Does it start with you? What if you had to make a choice between you and your spouse in a condition of life and death? Who's your family? So personal, the